Good morning, guys. It is match day. We are building up towards Rangers versus Hibernian in the League Cup quarter final. Later, 5:45 kickoff. We will be back later at 5:30 with a live watch along on your biggest independent fan channel out here. The biggest Rangers independent fan channel in the business, guys. Always bringing you the latest news. Always bringing your opinions to the fore, and obviously giving you as much of a say more than any other channel on this Rangers network, guys. Look, it's a D-Day for Russell Martin. It really is. I think, the result today could go a long way to deciding what this man's future will be at our club. And look, I mean, as much as I'd probably, I want the man to go on, I genuinely don't see a future under Russell Martin for Rangers. I just can't bring myself to want my team to lose. So I do want them to win today, whether that means Russell Martin stays for 2-3 more weeks or what. I don't think any true fan can ever really want their team to lose, no matter what your feelings are on your manager. It's a D-Day. It is a big D-Day for Russell Martin. It genuinely is. We lose today, and I think he could well be gone, especially with Andrew Kavanagh in the country. Patrick Stewart has spoken out, though, about the whole situation, stating that he believes that Russell Martin is making progress with his team and progress with the squad, and has backed the manager, saying that he gets the project, he gets the club, and he gets the expectations at the club. I've got to slightly question that. I'd love to actually delve a little bit deeper with Patrick Stewart on that one and kind of say to him, well, what progress? Please show me where you think there is progress. Maybe there's progress in the squad building. Yes, we've obviously cleared out a lot of players. Yes, we've brought in a lot of new players. And I understand that. We spent 25 million. We've brought in around 20 million. So we've made around about it's a 5 million net spend. It's not as big a net spend as a lot of people are making out. Rangers have spent this summer. But, look, that's the situation. So is that where you think the progress is? Because I'll be honest with you, I can't see the progress on the field. I cannot see a development of a playing style. I cannot see the development of a way of playing, a set of tactics that are working. As Stevie Clifford said in that post-match press conference the other day, it doesn't look like this team is coached in the slightest, which Russell Martin said hurt. But you know what? The truth hurts, Russell, doesn't it, buddy? But it's interesting to hear Patrick Stewart saying this. It is, again, a doubling down, in effect, of his backing for the manager. He's showing that he does fully support this manager, and he is doing everything he can to succeed that Russell Martin gets the support of the board and the support of the football board going forward. Now, that's slightly worrying that Patrick Stewart obviously isn't seeing this. And I think it further doubles down on the situation that's been presented around that demonstration today by the Union Bears, wanting Russell Martin out, wanting Patrick Stewart out. I think there is a growing feeling that Patrick Stewart is, as I've said all along, a big part of the problem at Rangers. He is a big issue at this football club. Now, something else that has come out from the Fan Advisory Board is that Russell Martin obviously is the manager and that the board stand by him. However, Patrick Stewart did say that there is always succession planning in place. There is always a plan B with the manager. He said that is not undermining your manager. That is what is called good governance, that all teams around Europe, around the world, will always plan the next steps. They will plan that if a certain person within that football organisation leaves, be it the chairman, be it the CEO, be it the finance director, be it the manager, be it the head coach, head of academy, whoever, there needs to be a succession plan in place. There needs to be a plan B in place. And Stewart said that there definitely is a plan B in place in the event that things get any worse. That was not his words. That is kind of summarising, I think, the meaning behind the plan B. He did say that they have been looking at alternative options. There are alternatives there. He said that's just normal business practice. That is not saying that we are going to sack the manager or do not back the manager. That's what the minutes of this fan advisory board meeting have come out with. That's where this information is coming from. It's not like it's just been plucked out of Football Insider or Team Talk or somewhere made up. From that, as he said, the succession planning is a normal part of good governance across all key roles, not specific to any head coach. He said, in effect, he even doubled down and he said this. He said, this does not mean that active steps are being taken to replace Russell Martin. So it's quite clear that the board are still at that point there where they are not ready to replace the manager, although a bad result today, I think, could go a long way to forcing their hand into getting rid of the manager. I think a lot of people are then speculating, if that was to happen, if the manager was to be sacked, who would be the replacement? And obviously the names that have been linked to the likes of Sean Dyche, Steven Gerrard, Danny Rule, Gary O'Neill, they seem to be the top names that have been mentioned time and time again for this role. Now, all those managers have kind of, I mean, a couple of those managers have been linked with moves elsewhere. Apparently, Phil Parkinson, who is under pressure at Wrexham, Stephen Gerrard has been linked with a role at Wrexham, apparently. That is a story that is doing the rounds this morning. Danny Rule, that situation, I don't fully get that situation. It could be slightly complicated by the whole Sheffield Wednesday debacle that is going on at the moment, where Dejan Chansiri is just making a pig's ear of running that football club. So, that's the situation. Gary O'Neill, I think, is one to avoid. He's a guy who nearly got Wolves relegated. I think he was at Bournemouth previously as well, didn't do well there. Again, I think he's just another Russell Martin. However, I could see him as being a probable candidate, especially given the words that Patrick Stewart went on to say when he said that the next permanent boss will be another coach in the Martin mould. They're not looking for a domineering manager. They're not looking for a kind of dictator at the top, a manager who wants control of everything. That is not what they want. They want a head coach very much who fits in within the football director structure, the sporting director structure, and someone who is a powerful personality, a manager, certainly in the role of say a Jurgen Klopp. I'm not saying he would be linked with us, or a Jose Mourinho, again, not a name, a Sir Alex Ferguson, giving the sort of personality types that I'm talking about here, would not be the sort of manager they will look for. Now, this appears to apparently rule out Sean Dyche, who does appear to apparently want a lot more control over transfers if he was to be appointed to any new job. So that appears to rule out Sean Dyche, which I personally think is very good news. Sean Dyche, I think, would be an absolute disaster of an appointment for Rangers. The guy plays the most boring football. I think in the short term it would work, but his long ball, fight, grit, battle, dogs of war style football would work perhaps against the lesser teams, but when it comes to playing the better teams in Europe and to some degree Celtic as well, I don't think his style would flourish and work at all. So interesting words indeed from Patrick Stewart in terms of this predecessor. The next person is being looked at, but no active steps are being taken as of yet to replace Russell Martin. Look, I don't know what happens today. I said on the podcast yesterday, I've got a sneaking suspicion that we sneak a win today, that we somehow manage to beat Hibs and Martin lives on for another couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to be a glorious performance of all singing or dancing, glorious passing football, attacking football in the mode of the Plitzen game, the one game that did work this season. I do believe it will be a gritty, fighting, battling win if we get one. Hibs are a decent side, don't get me wrong. Hibs have got some good footballers and they're doing very well under David Gray this season. They're third in the league behind their Edinburgh neighbours, Hearts. Hearts and Hibs have both started the season very, very well, and you've got to take your hats off to them. Look, I'm not an arrogant fan. I'm not a fan who's not going to give props to other teams when they do well, and Hearts and Hibs are doing well, and fair play to them. So today's game, I think, will be tough. Obviously, remember, just a reminder, we will have you a live watch along starting at 5:30 on the channel, on your biggest independent Rangers fan channel. Guys, we are growing fantastically. Thank you for your support. Please, obviously, keep smashing that like, subscribing. And we're looking at changes we can make, ways we can make to bring more people in and involve more people with the podcast going forward. Although I've always kind of tried to go down the United Stand model. I do admire Mark Goldbridge. That's my aim, is to be the Glasgow Rangers version of Mark Goldbridge. But there we go. Guys, look, today's game, it will be tough, I believe. It will not be a glorious or singing or dancing display. I think Rangers will come away with a 2-1 victory. I think a lot depends on the team he picks. There's certain players I really do think we need to see out there today. I want to see Finlay Curtis start. I think the lad has so much passion, heart and fight for the club. Nico Raskan back in the squad, as Russell Martin himself said yesterday. Again, I think he needs to start for the club today. I think having those two players in would make a huge difference to this lineup. It really genuinely would. And that's what I want to see. I want to see those two guys out there fighting, battling, and really doing it for the cause, which I think they can. They're great footballers. Finlay Curtis is a good lad, and he's better than Mikey Moore, who's really struggled. He's better than Ant-Man. He's not better than Gassama. I think Gassama is a very talented player, don't get me wrong. And I think he needs a much more freer role to go and influence the game. I think if Russell Martin was to take the shackles off him a little bit more, it would certainly help. Today, one of the big indications, the big things we need to see is more chance creation in the final third. That's something we haven't seen in past games. For me, Bojan Miovski, if you give him the chance, he will score goals, and we need to do that today. Questions over whether Chimiti could start. I personally don't think he will. I think he will go with Miovski. I think Liam Kelly could start in goal. Don't really back that one. I think Kelly's crap. But look, it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts, your team projections in the comments down below. And let me know what you think of what Patrick Stewart has had to say. Thanks for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.